The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Step outside of your comfort zone. See the world with a whole new perspective. Join us and experience the unexplained on the Paranormal View.
And welcome everybody right here to the Paranormal View on the Para X Radio Network. I want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, those in the chat room and those listening from around the world. Tonight, if you have questions for us, you can private chat them to either Ceiling Cat or myself. And Jeff's not in the chat room yet, but if he gets in, you can also private chat him. And we will get questions answered for you. If you're listening from somewhere else, you can come over to the paraxradionetwork.com and join in the chat room there. Or if you prefer, you can send us an email to theparanormalview@gmail.com with a question, and we will get them and answer them for you. Tonight we have with us Barbara Duncan.
I am here.
And we got Jeffrey Gould.
Hello, hello.
And of course we have a great guest lined up for tonight that Jeff will introduce in a second. I just want to let everybody know that stay safe, stay hunkered down, wear masks when you go out. And Barbara, what is it you say all the time?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Yes. So hopefully we can have us a fun show tonight and get a lot of information. So I think what we'll do is have Jeff introduce our guest. Maybe. Jeff, you still with us? Don't tell me I've lost him already.
It shows him on.
Huh. Oh, well.
Unless the little beast has his microphone muted.
Probably. Okay. Barbara, you want to introduce him?
Okay. Well, I don't have his bio here, but he is the director of Ohio MUFON. Please welcome back the legendary Thomas Wertman.
Legendary.
Legendary.
And you know, Henry, I thought I was the only one who used that word hunker too.
Okay, Jeff is back, so
Yeah,
Jeff will give you the proper. Yeah,
all right, why don't you do the proper?
Yeah, exactly. Well, tonight we have
just
one of our
include the word legendary.
Yeah.
fine. Tonight we have one of our favorite legendary returning guests, Thomas Wertman, a former dean of the American National University, the state director at MUFON, and former co-director at, but still works with the Cleveland Ufology Project. So welcome back, Thomas Wertman. Yay!
Hey, I'm back. Okay. It's great to be back too.
Well, it's always good to have you back, though, because we can ask one little question and let you talk for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I noticed that, you know. I was doing a show the other night, too, and you love this, Honor Henry. The guy does the same thing. It's a segment I do for about a half hour, a show a half hour a month. And this guy basically sits down and lets me roll for a half hour. Well, I said, let's switch it up on him. And halfway through, I said, okay, let's put it back in his lap. and I could tell he was doing dishes or something in the house because I could hear dishes clattering and everything else.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was funny. I loved it, at least from my end. And but I enjoy your show, though. It's great.
Well, we try to make it great and interesting. So,
Yeah, it's a lot like putting on that long playing record, and then going off to the bathroom.
Exactly.
Bohemian Rhapsody followed by Paradise by the Dashboard Light. You know.
Yeah.
Or Hey Jude.
or you forget to mute Yeah.
Oh.
All right. I guess, why don't we just start? Because I talked with you a little bit earlier. And with everybody more or less kind of staying in and not everybody out running around, how is it with people reporting that they've seen UFOs, etc.? Maybe they hang out on their deck or at night or something. Does people see more or not?
Well, after you emailed me that question the other day, I went back and pulled some data today from the MUFON database. And one of the things I looked at was, before I pulled the data, is how many reports you see on the internet, period. There's certain websites that put a lot of new reports out there. A number of them pick it up, by the way, from the MUFON database, and you just kind of republish the information we've got out there already. But I've seen fewer reports on blogs than what I have in the past. And I kind of almost gave me the impression that, okay, if I'm seeing fewer reports on these different blogs out there, then maybe overall numbers are down. Well, I went back and pulled the numbers for March to begin with this year, and actually I even pulled them for April. And one of the things I found out is for March, the reports were way up compared to last year. Last year in March, we had 400 reports coming into MUFON across the whole United States. And this year, we've got 672 for March. So you're seeing almost it's over about 40% increase, roughly, off the top of my head. So the numbers are up quite a bit.
Could that because
but one of the things you have to... Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey. No,
I was going to say, is it possible because we've noticed so much cleaning up, like the Earth is taking care of itself, like, oh, these humans are finally out of my hair, and there's a lot less light pollution.
Well,
so
you're right.
maybe...
Yeah, that's one potential thing. But when I started pulling the reports, one of the things we ran into here in the state I'm in Ohio, last year in March, we had 14 reports, which is about average. I mean, the weather's kind of overcast at that time of year. We're still getting snow off and on. And so 14 is about right. This year we had 34. So we had over 100% increase. I mean, the numbers were pretty high, but I actually investigated 20 some of those cases myself. And what I found out is a lot of those were all attributed to one thing: Elon Musk. And he's got this big project. Got this big project rolling right now called Starlink.
Yes.
And Starlink is his project where they're going to be putting 10 or 14,000 satellites in space eventually.
Yeah.
And these satellites are going to be designed to help give internet accessibility to the whole world. So they're launching roughly 60 of these at a time. So in other words, here's this one rocket up, and basically it's almost like laying eggs as it goes across space. Here's one satellite coming out after another one, and there's 60 of them in this one rocket. Well, as these things deploy, they're in a long string, and they take on a resemblance of a train going across the sky. You see this series of lights. And when I saw the cases coming into Ohio, right away I had a good idea of what it was, but I still went ahead and ran all my other research anyway. And you could see that 20 of these cases basically said the same thing. They saw the objects coming from the same direction to the sky on the same night at the same time frame. And the description of them basically was almost identical. And when I went back and pulled the website's information from SpaceX, it confirmed that that's exactly what they were seeing. We also, when you go back, this was like the sixth launch. There's been 6 different launches of these things going back a year. And if you go back to some of the months where they were launched at, you saw similar reports. So this year, like in March, I think the reason we saw these numbers so high is because people were just seeing SpaceX. And you're right, Henry, they may have been outside on the deck. They may have been doing something outside just to give themselves a break. And they noticed this thing because it stood out as being so highly unusual. Because who would think if you look in the sky and see like 20 or 30 or 40 objects moving in a string across the sky? It'd be satellites. And when I pulled the numbers across the country, we had 672 reports in March, of which 275 have been completed and are termed as identified flying objects, man-made. And when you look at the descriptions, they're all going back to that same series of satellites. So all that increase is pretty much related back to Elon Musk and SpaceX. And I think we'll see probably the numbers being relatively the same. But one of the things I noticed out in like my neighborhood, we don't see a whole lot of people out right now. It almost reminds me of one of those bad B movies of how the streets are all deserted. Seriously, everybody's staying inside. You don't hear a whole lot of activity outside. I don't know about you, but I used to hear like the traffic, everybody going to work in the morning.
Right.
Now we don't hear that in my neighborhood. The only thing we have is the occasional dog walker. But in certain parts of the state, I think now we're seeing the breaks in the weather. Here in Ohio, we'll see the numbers of reports going up again. And also with some of the shows coming out, the newer shows coming out on UFOs, we'll probably see an increase too, because when you see the UFO shows come out, that gets that word out to the public again. And they turned us. Matter of fact, last night I had a phone call at like 11:30 last night. A guy reporting some objects that he was seeing that I'm working on now in southern Ohio.
Interesting.
Southern Ohio.
So,
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not just that. It's the lack of other pollution as well. India is stating that people can see the Himalayas for the first time in 20, 30 years. So, I mean, there's not a lot of dirty cloud cover.
No, and I haven't pulled the numbers from all over the world, but like you say, places like India, going back to places in China, you've got such a change in the atmosphere. People are going to notice more things in the sky. Here where I'm at, it's not that much different right now. But again, we're coming out of a time of year where the skies are pretty much overcast most of the time. And now we've just hit a couple good days of like nice sunny sky or clear sunny skies. And I'm sure we'll be seeing reports come in at night again.
Well, there's a lot of celestial events happening right now, too, where you have, I think it's the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus all lining up.
Right.
And we have that comet coming.
Correct.
Which is going to be
that was some of the things I know. I started looking at some of those on there, Barbara, some of the possibilities for the video I got last night. But it was just too bright of an object. I mean, it was extremely bright, and it was visible for about an hour. And it doesn't appear to be related to a star, so I'm just checking out everything else it could potentially be right now. But, yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the other celestial objects.
You say you saw this last night?
A witness called me up about 11:30 last night and says, "Is this MUFON? Is this MUFON?" I said, "Yes." And of course, I was bleary-eyed because I just fell asleep. And he says, "Well, I saw this object. It was visible for about an hour." Really? And he told me where he was at. And it's, like I said, it's down in southern Ohio. I won't give the exact location because the case is under investigation right now. Southern Ohio, and it was a relatively stationary object, but it was exceptionally bright, too bright to be basically a star. And I want to go back and check out everything in more detail, because he said he didn't see aircraft flying over the region, but yet I did find a helicopter going overhead at about 900 feet, but that wouldn't account for the hour time frame that he said he saw. And I've got to look at the videos too. He sent me 3 different videos of the object. Yeah, so I wanted to see what those look like. But it looks like it may be an interesting case.